So if you really want to help people with their issues, figure out what's their cause and address the cause. And then I even took it one step further and said, hey, why don't we really address the cause of the cause, which is poor lifestyle choices.
Welcome back to another episode of the Making Magic podcast. I'm Sean Jay, your host, and I'm a professional magician, speaker, and 3D designer. And this is all about inspiring conversations with the movers, the shakers, the visionaries, and the makers, the wizards behind the curtain that make the magic for you. Now, if this is your first time tuning into the show, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day or night to do so. It really does mean a lot that you're supporting the show, and you can find the show on all of the popular podcast apps, and hopefully by the end of this interview, I will have earned a 5-star review because you thought it was the most awesome, insightful, inspiring conversation that will inspire you to be a little more creative in your life and business. And if you're watching this interview on YouTube, click the thumbs up, little notification bell, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I got so many more great, inspiring interviews with the most amazing creative people. So with all of that said, let's learn a little bit more about our next guest. While in college at the University of Maryland, he worked as a chiropractic assistant for a local chiropractor. And it was here that he first developed and discovered his purpose and passion for serving people through chiropractic care. And after completing a degree in psychology, he began chiropractic school in the year 2000 at Life Chiropractic College West and received a Doctor of Chiropractic degree in 2004. He left chiropractic school with the goal and drive to help people reduce stress naturally. He wanted to create an atmosphere that provided people in their communities the resources, accountability, and tools to allow them to live longer, healthier lives that are less dependent on drugs and surgeries. And that's exactly what he did, folks. He opened his first practice in New York City in 2004, and now here in Raleigh, North Carolina, the hometown of the Making Magic podcast studios. So this one's a different one. I actually went out into the wild to visit this man in person at his office. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ankur Prakash of Living Well Balanced. Check it out. Okay guys, we're about to do the interview with the one and only Dr. Prakash. We're gonna go inside the building here where he is, and we're gonna take a little elevator ride up. I almost hit the fire alarm button. I want the fire alarm to go off. That'll be a whole other type of introduction to this episode. So here we are. All right. You guys are gonna like this because this isn't your standard type of guest. I wanted to change it up. I want to do this in person and wanted to have somebody very different. And I think you're gonna like it. So here we are. All right. Let's go in to the office. Here it is. They like to have fun here. They definitely like to have fun here. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi there. We're just doing a little video. Okay, and now we're gonna go right back to the room here. And here we go. We're just getting this all set up. All right, good to see you. There he is, Dr. Prakash. All ready?
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, man.
Let's do this.
Let's get going.
So here we go. All right, guys, so I've decided to change it up a little bit. I'm out in the wild, actually, at this man's practice, Dr. Prakash, and we're gonna have an interesting chat about who he is and what he does. And he's making magic in his own kind of way. He's not a sleight of hand magician like me, but he makes magic for the human body. So he's here to tell us a little bit about that. So Dr. Prakash, I always like to start off the show with a story.
Sure.
And so I'd like you to share with us a story about the very first time you got involved in chiropractic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. What an honor and privilege. I've always been told that you don't choose chiropractic as a career, it chooses you. And that's exactly what happened almost 30 years ago, man. It was freshman year of college, and my roommate's dad, this is Parents Weekend, he introduced himself as a chiropractor, asked me what I wanted to be, and I wanted to go into some medical field, whether it was veterinarian, psychology, or internal medicine. And he basically said, why don't you want to be a real doctor instead? I'm like, okay. Here I am, 18 years old, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what chiropractic means, let alone spelling it. And he explained it to me that weekend and that night at dinner, and I was sold. And I was sold on chiropractic, not necessarily as a business or as a career, nor did I have a testimonial to it, but dude, I was sold on its magic, on its ability to help people heal with their hands, and that the power that made the body heals the body. My job is to be an instrument to remove any interference, so that way you can heal yourself. So that's how chiropractic chose me, man.
Chiropractic chose him. It drew him in rather than him going to it.
Yep. Yeah.
Basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. And what was the reason why, like the big why moment for you? Why you chose that rather than standard medicine and drugs and pills and all of those things?
Yeah, and it's a great question, because it's not that I'm anti-drugs or anti-surgery, and I've got plenty of family members that are in that medical realm, but how I got explained to it is that, hey, do you want to be a physician that gives people symptoms relief, mask their symptoms with drugs, or do you want to be a physician that actually understands the underlying cause and address the cause of the problem and not just treat the symptoms and mask them? And I'm like, ooh, I think I would prefer to figure out the cause of issues, the cause of disease, rather than treat the effects. And so that was a big instrument, or a big statement that was made to me that weekend in 1995.
1995, the 80s and the 90s, I think, were the best time to be alive.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Hey, and that rhymed too.
Yeah.
That was unintentional. Maybe it's magic, I don't know. And the reason, so you learned that even though you're still interested in medicine as a whole, which does include drugs and surgeries for specific cases, you just didn't want to make that
my focus.
Your focus.
No.
You realize there are other things.
Yeah, I mean, the chiropractic degree is called DC, which stands for Doctor of Chiropractic, but I got taught that, hey, that's the doctor of cause. So if you really want to help people with their issues, figure out what's their cause and address the cause. And then I even took it one step further and said, hey, why don't we really address the cause of the cause, which is poor lifestyle choices. And that's kind of how we've evolved over 20, 25 years.
The cause of the cause.
There you go.
Because we often talk about causation, like cause and effect.
Yeah.
But then there's the cause of the cause.
Yeah. We took it one step further, and that's kind of like, I guess we can talk about this on the show. That was my invention, because that wasn't a model that existed in our profession, or maybe it did, and there was chiropractic and massage, chiropractic and nutrition, chiropractic and rehab and physical therapy, but if you look at it, if you're trying to really figure out the cause of most people's issues, it's not eating right, it's not thinking right, it's not moving well or moving correctly, and it's weakness of your body. So why not address all of those potential reasons all under one roof?
All under, yeah, because sometimes if you just narrow it down and just say, I'm going to crack your back and that's going to solve all your problems, as you know, that's not always the case. It just, because each patient is their own individual.
Yep.
May require a different type of treatment plan.
Yeah, you got it. And for the record, people crack jokes. Chiropractors adjust spines.
Okay.
I got an answer for all of those, by the way. Yep. The snap, the crack, the twist.
So you heard that here first. Get it right. People crack jokes. Chiropractors adjust.
You got it.
Spines.
You got it.
So we're going to adjust into the next question without cracking anything along the way, because remember what Mom said, never step. Anyways, I'll let you figure that out. So you've learned a lot over the years. Did you mention how many years?
Dude,
you've been?
So I graduated in 2004, so that was, we're almost 20 years.
Wow.
Almost 20. In fact, yesterday was my 18th year anniversary opening up our first office in New York. New York.
And so you have offices in New York and North Carolina?
You got it. Yeah, New York and Raleigh.
Okay. Where in New York?
New York, Upper West Side, Manhattan. So right by the Museum of National History. So West 80th, between Columbus and Amsterdam.
Okay, so if any of my viewers or listeners are up there or happen to take a trip up there and need your adjustment and anything else, check them out at that location.
Awesome.
Now, knowing what you know right now, Dr. Prakash, you've been doing this for almost 20 years, and clearly 20 years ago you weren't in the same position. You just didn't know as much through experience. I mean, you've had your formal school training, but then doing public practice for 18 years, you know a lot more than you did when you first started.
Sure.
So if you were to go back in time and tell the earlier version of Dr. P to do anything different, would there be anything that any advice you would share with him?
You know, it's funny because I believe that things happen for a reason. I believe that people were put in my life at the very right moment, the very right time, the right place, and not just people, but events in my life. So I don't know about taking any of it back because they all served a reason, but I think I would have started this model back when I first graduated out of chiropractic school, because like 99% of chiropractors, you graduate with that sheet of paper, right, that says, hey, you are now allowed to license to practice chiropractic. But that's all I did for the first 6 years until that realization, that moment that triggered it, and it says, hey, you know what? Adjusting spines to help improve their brain-body communication, that's just one component of healthcare. We really got to address other systems of the body that are missing, and I think that's what we have now. And it's not that I've learned it to this point. I'm still evolving. We're still learning and growing and adapting to what needs to be done, but that's what I would have probably have done 20 years ago, is to have an office that offers all of these services under one roof, not just a one-stop shop like they say in New York, but more as a integrated and collaborative approach to healthcare.
So if you go in and you realize you might assume one type of treatment would work, but then after doing some digging you say, oh, well, this person actually needs a better diet, and they're low in these numbers here, so that's when a nutritionist would come in and say, let me take a look at your labs, here's what you need, here's what we could do. Because, I mean, I would think that you can only get so far with one modality.
Yeah.
Like one modality can't be the cure-all and be-all. I mean, even if somebody never goes to the doctor, I mean, I'm sure you've heard, and people have heard, like, the best medicine is diet, exercise, and sunlight. That's not just one thing.
That's part of it.
It's not just going out and sitting in the sun. It's not just eating a good diet but staying in all day and doing nothing with your body. Or it's not just working out and eating, pizza and cakes all day. It's a combination.
And I got another funny one too. We don't cure anything, we just cure ham. So the only thing that really is the cure is the cause. And I remember there were tattoos in the chiropractic profession probably 50, 60 years ago, and the tattoos were always one cause equals the cure. There's never just one cause. There's always, healthcare now has to really, it can't be like a silo anymore that, hey, this is happening because it's your diet, this is happening because of your lack of fitness and poor health hygiene. It's always a collection, a combination of stuff, and especially in today's world, man, we got to address a lot of things more than just their spinal hygiene or their restorative sleep or whatever,
Yeah, and it's like a bunch of little things that add up to make the greater
big things
whole.
Bigger. Yep, you got it.
And when any of those pieces are off, you get the imbalance.
Yep, there it is. And that's the name of the company, Living Well Balanced.
Living Well Balanced.
Shameless plug, sorry.
When do I get a percentage? When do I start working here? When do I? Man, I could bring a lot of clients to this place. I mean, I already know half the philosophy.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. Like it's the underlying foundation of the office is yes, it's set in philosophy, the philosophy of chiropractic, that the power that made the body heals the body. Don't get in its way. Nature needs no help, just no interference. But all the other services that we have here help with that, whether that's cryotherapy and sauna, whether it's nutrition, whether it's personal training or rehab or physical therapy. There's so many things that we can fix all under one roof, but it doesn't mean that a person needs to do all of them. It just means that, hey, we've got a lot of different tools in our tool belt to build whatever foundation needs to improve on that person in front of us.
Excellent. So now that everybody has a better grasp on what they do here at Living Well Balanced and what Dr. P has gone through over the years to get to that point to just get to that realization. He's got a well-oiled machine at this point. What about, since you mentioned that you're always evolving and always learning, is there anything that you recently, like any type of medical modality or any technique or something that you've recently discovered that you might have put into practice here at Living Well Balanced?
Well, since the pandemic, we have increased our offerings to help people reduce their fear and anxiety of a weak immune system, right? So we have started doing vitamin injections and immune IVs, so nutritional IV therapy. But as of earlier this year, and so now we're in 2022, we've started offering NAD IV therapy. And NAD is just one of those things that have been researched for 2.5 decades in this country, but just like many natural approaches to cognitive issues, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, if it's not a drug, it's not going to get approved by the FDA. But NAD is one of the newest IVs that we've offered, and it helps with just that. Regenerates brain cells. It helps with cognitive decline, memory issues, Parkinson's, severe stuff like Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis. I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff. So that's the newest thing that we've evolved and offered.
And what does NAD stand for?
Dude, don't make me ask. It's nicotinamide something something something.
Okay.
It's a very long name for basically something that your brain naturally makes. It's a coenzyme. And as we get older, into the 30s and 40s, our brain starts to secrete less and less and less of NAD. And so they've always looked at the benefits to taking NAD this way through supplements, but they realize it's not as effective, and plus we don't absorb nutrients as well as we used to because of many other issues in this country. But when you get it intravenously, and it's a slow drip, it's not an IV that is in and out, it's a 2.5 hour up to a 4 hour IV, it's pretty powerful. Yeah, and there's also already a lot of promising, compelling research on the potential benefits of IV therapy with NAD.
I feel like I'm on a Joe Rogan podcast where he always talks about DMT.
Yeah.
There's DMT, but there's NAD, which is not psychoactive. It's just another shorthand name for a chemical that the brain produces, which DMT is also produced in the human body. But that's a whole other topic for a whole other show.
It's funny you mentioned Joe Rogan. We actually just got a referral from him from his podcast.
Really?
Yeah, we just got one. I think that's the second one in the last couple months.
Well, thank you, Joe Rogan, for that. It's a small world and a universe within. So that was pretty mind-blowing right there. NAD, check that out, guys. And they offer it here. Do your research. It's amazing stuff. It's like magic. Because if you, basically, it's this chemical that once you put it back into your body, it helps with those other symptoms.
Yeah, it de-ages you. So it's not anti-aging. I mean, you're going to age gracefully, but you're going to keep the sharpness and the acuity.
It slows it way down.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. What about, that actually reminds me of my grandma, who maybe she's, I don't know, maybe she's like, was in some secret government experimental program. She's like 102 years old. She just turned 102. But I think she's a rarity though. She smoked packs upon packs of cigarettes all throughout her life, and she's still kicking. But not that I'm advocating anything. The point that I want to make though is that everybody's different. Everybody's different. It always helps to take care of yourself, but it's just amazing how there's no one cookie cutter approach.
No, that's huge. That's really big. It's not looking at healthcare or even disease as a cookie cutter, like inside the box. You can't do that anymore. It's not a one size fits all.
You can't just read an instruction manual and go from there.
No. It's funny because we have what's called standard operating procedures in all businesses. If you take all the most successful franchises, right, they have, this is what you do, and this happens, this is what you do. But man, we are an SOPs for procedures, but when it comes to clinical recommendations, not a single SOP exists, because every single treatment plan has to be different, right? Because you're different. Your grandmom's different. Your mom's different. I'm different. If we're all suffering from a headache, that doesn't mean we have the same treatment plan.
Or the same cause.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any particular techniques that you would say, since we talked about some of the newer things, but out of all the tools in your tool belt, what would you say that your you're best at, or what you'd say is kind of like your forte?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there's so many, like every healthcare profession now has postgraduate diplomate programs. Like you can become an expert in taking care of sports injuries or pediatrics or geriatrics. For me, I would say my expertise, from my perspective as a clinician, it's more of posture, right? Like we do a lot of postural rehab and postural correction, and it's motion.
Correct my posture right now.
Everyone should be doing that right now. And it's stiffness, right? We have become a very, very stiff world, and technology has been a very driving force of that. And if you look at what happened in the last 2 years with majority of the folks working from home, students being homeschooled, what are they doing throughout the day? Man, they are on their phones, their iPads, staring at their computer. So that postural maladaptation now creates a lot of stiffness in the body, and stiffness and poor posture coupled together, it ages you, accelerates aging. So if I had to pick my niche, that's me. That's what I'm all about.
Postural correction.
Yeah. Now, if you ask a typical practice member that comes here, what are we all about? Dude, we're about connecting the dots. We're good at figuring out what's going on with the person and addressing their needs and fixing it. So.
If you see your average old, feeble person, usually what is like the first sign that they are old and feeble is their posture.
Yep.
And being hunched over, whether it be by the neck or the back or shoulders. Right?
Yeah, that when I first got into the profession, right, when it found me in the 90s, that old and feeble, distorted posture was your 70-year-olds, your 80-year-olds, and maybe 90-year-olds. Now it's your upper 40-year-olds, right? Or maybe even upper 30-year-olds that are already looking that way. Even they don't feel it, it's happening in their spine. The deterioration is taking place. And now I think we're starting to see some research in teenagers. That bulging disc now is 90% of your teenagers because in the cervical spine because of flexion of the head.
Mostly at the neck, I would.
Yeah, it's all in the neck.
The
all
technique
in the neck
stuff.
Yeah, and then just that 30-degree tilt puts more pressure in your lower back. So now they're lower back problems by the time they're in their 20s. So yeah, we got a different culture than we did 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, right. 20, 30 years ago, people were hurting their back for completely different reasons. Most likely
sports injuries, a physical trauma. Now it's just because of work and lack of movement. So.
The type of work.
The type of work. Yeah,
type of work. Yeah. Switching gears from kind of what you're good at, what you've recently discovered currently, are there any techniques or medical advancements that you've just been researching on your own time or considering bringing into the practice, like some cutting edge? I mean, the NAD is pretty cutting edge and amazing. Is there anything that's just kind of like not fully incorporated, but you're just considering it and going, these look like cool things? Maybe
let's actually tie that into magic, because the power that made the body heals the body. That's a no-brainer to me. That's the number one core concept of chiropractic and any real natural healthcare. So the growing field of medicine right now has been regenerative medicine, right? And they use the word regenerative as a kind of encompassing, because there's stem cell therapy, there's PRP therapy, there's a lot of regenerative things that you can be doing in your practice, whether you're a medical doctor or a chiropractor. But I think where we have been doing is we've been using the concept of stem cells and regenerative medicine on joints, but where we're going to start taking it further is actually doing it through IV. So instead of putting in a stem cell injection or regenerative injection in your elbow that might be arthritic, or your shoulder that's got some ligament and tendon issues, or in your hip that's got some degeneration and joint space narrowing, now they're starting to really look at, what if we just did it systemically in an IV, do a glutathione push so it gets past the blood-brain barrier. And now what if we tease your brain into regenerating whatever it needs to regenerate? So we're starting to kind of entertain that idea. We've done that already on a handful of patients who've got like Lyme's or chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, or they just have aches and issues everywhere. Instead of looking at the part, let's just address the whole.
Chronic inflammation,
Yeah, yep, yeah.
Because everything that you mentioned is pretty much a result of chronic inflammation somewhere,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, so that's probably the one technique that we're researching more and more into doing. And of course, it's in the US, that means it's got to be off-label use. So,
Huh.
Yeah.
That is pretty magical. So you're putting this substance in your body that is made from the very cells that are used to repair and rebuild.
yeah, when you were a baby or when you were a young child, right? You had what's called mesenchymal stem cells that whenever you cut yourself or whenever you got an injury, it repaired fast. And then the older we got, our ability to repair, heal, and recover from stresses, whether it was a physical injury or just poor lifestyle choices, it got harder and harder and more delayed. But this is now doing it through an IV, which then releases that power that made your body to heal it better.
Interesting.
So, but like you can't, is it magic? Is it going to do what it did on me to you? That's the part we don't know, right? It's your body, it's your innate intelligence that it takes that in and figures out what it needs to do to repair. So,
right.
So that's the cool part that we're going to be doing more of.
That is really cool, actually. That is very magical, I would agree. And the human body is a magical machine.
Yeah, it really is.
It's this weird magical machine system.
Yep.
And it's all the cogs and the gears that are turning. And if one cog and gear is wobbly, the machine could come crashing down.
Yep, true.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's always, health is never a state, right? Like the definition of health is that it's actually an active continuum. You're either growing and regenerating, or you are not, right? You're dying.
Stagnant.
Right, you're stagnant. Yeah, there's no in the middle. You're either doing things that take you towards flourishing and reviving and regenerating, or you're doing things that are slowly destroying and killing you. So why not emphasize and invest all your time, energy, and money and resources into regenerating and growing you? So
Good points made.
it's like that with people, right? Like I only hang out with you because you grow and you regenerate me, right?
I try to have that effect on people. I'm like the fertilizer that makes the plants grow. Maybe there was a better analogy I could have used, but I'm the catalyst for growth.
Yeah, there you go.
How about that?
There you go. Yeah.
I try to do it in my own life, and then
and you're doing it with the series too, right? With the shows to inspire not just magicians but all entrepreneurs, or just people to be better versions of themselves.
Yeah, by inspiring, we're all about inspiring creativity, and these are conversations that specifically are designed to get your gears turning.
There you go.
And that's why I have people like you on the show, because I think you have something important, a lot of important things to say, and you get people's gears turning in their head rather than staying stuck in that stagnant pattern of thinking.
Yep, that's true. So true.
So if we were to go in an imaginary time machine and go back to like when you started or earlier on in your practice, we talked about some of the newer things like that you're excited about. Is there any like greatest hits of Dr. Prakash on the unreleased album, or maybe the released album, like things that you would say were your favorite favorite things that you've done in your business or practice or career?
I am a doctor on a sheet of paper. I am also a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Like I own my own business, both here in New York as well. But I'm not in the doctor business. I'm not in the fixing people's issues business, right? I could be in the lower back pain business or the neck pain or the lose weight business. But what I feel like the business that I'm really in is the relationship business. It's the relationship business. I am not a fan, especially being as I get older and older. Yeah. I am not a fan of transactional relationships anymore. I really, truly value long-term, healthy relationships. That doesn't mean you need to come in every day in my office and I need to see you, but I just know that, hey, for me to become an effective person, effective clinician, effective business entrepreneur, it's got to boil down to relationships. That's kind of like my Dr. Prakash way, is that's how we treat everyone, as if we want a full lifetime loving relationship with each person. So I guess that would be the one biggest thing that is kind of like my way. And people know that. They should feel that when they look at our website or on our social media pages. They should certainly feel it when they make their first phone call to the office, and the love that pours out from my front desk. Or the second they walk in, you know, like, is there a dog there that greets them when they come in? Or is it you're offered water, tea, or even alcohol? Like, I mean, there's so many different ways that we welcome people into our office, almost like it's that family vibe.
Right.
Even though this is a medical integrated office, we want people to know that, man, this is about relationships.
Relationships are key.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, relationships, they're really important, and that's the reason why that people keep coming back to Living Well Balanced.
Yep.
And that's a great part of your success. But now we've talked about your successes and like what's new and what's cutting edge. Let's talk about, what do you think would be the greatest DIY fail? I always ask my prop builders and creative people, because we go through a lot of different ups and downs, and there's probably been like at least one moment in your career over the past 18 years where you go, oh, I wish I didn't do that, or I could have done that better.
Ooh, that is a really good one, because I don't have just one. I'm sure, I'm sure I've got two handfuls. But the greatest, I think, I would say it falls under a statement that I remember either reading in a book or I heard it on seminar, but it was very short and sweet. It was trust but verify, right? Like I was raised in a household where your number one core value is love, number two is service, be of service. And doing those two things, all in all, I had this ability to just trust everyone, not just employees, past and present, or consultants, past and present, or big things that I've invested in. I think the biggest failure of mine was that I also didn't verify the integrity behind making those decisions or hiring those people. And a lot of it also came down to just not going with your instinct, right? Where they talk about trusting your gut. You know, women do it very well. It's like a natural inclination to know when something feels off or someone is not approachable, right? For me, as an entrepreneur, as a doctor, there was a lot of things that I signed up for, a lot of people that I've hired in the past, a lot of investments that I've made in increasing the brand reputation of the company that just failed miserably because I didn't verify the source or verify the integrity of the company and the other products and projects that I've signed up for over the last 15, 20 years. And those are just things that have taught me, you know, as negative as some of those experiences were, they've all given me positive life lessons. So,
as they should, if you're thinking about the whole thing. And
totally. Yeah, no, zero regrets. They even the worst case scenarios have always taught me, oh, I should never act like this
again.
Ever. Yep, exactly.
So trust and verify.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the entrepreneur world, you talk about sometimes you shoot, then you aim.
Yeah.
I think that's a good philosophy in certain cases.
Yeah.
But
I'm definitely a win then play guy. I'm just going to go ahead and win, and then I'm going to figure out how to play the game.
Yeah. But shooting then aiming doesn't work that well if you're a phlebotomist. Right? Trying to bring it to the medical world, you have to aim for the right vein.
That is true.
Or if you're a chiropractor, you have to know where the T6 or the C7 is.
Yep. That's true.
You got to be precise.
That is true.
So precision counts. Dr. Prakash, who got you involved in all of this medical world?
Well, for sure, chiropractic was my roommate's dad, right? Because he sold me on the profession, the philosophy behind it. But then, that was in the mid-'90s. I had the president of the chiropractic school that I had gone to was a huge influential speaker on me. I had a chiropractor that I had hosted a lot of his seminars. He's no longer with us on the physical realm of this world, but he has influenced hundreds and hundreds of his patients to become chiropractors. He was known in our profession as the greatest educator. So he had influenced me. In fact, he actually did my grand opening speech. He's from Spring Valley, New York, and so he had done my grand opening speech. And then I've hired a few amazing consultants on the way that, even in my infancy in chiropractic, and then as I became a toddler, they taught me how to walk in this profession. And then now I've got another consultant that has really taught me how to live and, become an advanced citizen in the chiropractic profession.
So you're Yoda.
So there's a lot, man. There's a lot. Yeah, and that's why I believe you're constantly evolving, you're constantly adapting and learning, right?
And the mentors help shave, hopefully, years off that learning curve.
Yep, you got it. You got it.
And is there a specific name that you want to recognize?
Right now, the biggest coach in my life is the Master Circle. They're originally from, again, New York, Long Island, New York. And, I invest not only in the accountability of myself, but also my team. So I take them to their conferences, and in fact, we're heading off to one in a couple of weeks, bringing the team down. So
to the Master Circle.
Yeah, Master Circle.
Okay.
And they are all about, and this is not just for chiropractic, it's who you are determines how well what you do works. So it's literally it's not about what you have or what you do so then you can be happy. It's more about, hey, be happy, be productive, be a role model now, and then do the things necessary so that you can have the life that you want, right? Too many people flip it around. They're always about, what do I have? What do I want? What do I get? It's like, no, dude, it's the other way around. So they're all identity-based coaching and consulting. So.
Most people wouldn't think that would have any connection at all to a chiropractic or an alternative health type business, but the bottom line is you can be the greatest whatever and know your trade or your craft very well, but if you don't know how to successfully organize, manage, and get the word out about whatever that is, then nobody cares because nobody knows.
Right, exactly. And again, they're not about cookie cutter. Here's the systems. Here's how you answer the phone. Here's how you walk through a new patient. Now, it's none of that. None of that. That you got to figure out yourself based off of who you are or how do you define success. So it's different for each person, just like our model is for each person that comes in the office.
Right.
Yeah.
What if I were to ask you this? Are there any resources that you would recommend, like anything that's available that a person, if they were interested in just learning more about the alternative health space and kind of what you do, are there any resources that you could suggest?
I mean, for sure, our website is so informative. Not to just shamelessly plug, but Living Well Balanced New York or Living Well Balanced North Carolina. We've got two different websites, and they've got plenty of resources and tabs there. But in terms of natural healthcare, there's so many. The natural healthcare industry, whether it's vitamin supplements, fitness, it's boomed in the last 20, 30 years. I think one of the greatest books talks about it being $1 trillion industry because people are starting to question their primaries on, hey, why am I just been prescribed this to lower this number when it's not reducing my risk of a heart attack or a stroke? Why am I not being told to figure out the cause of why my blood pressure is high or why my cholesterol is high or why my pancreas has a hard time figuring out how to regulate my blood sugar and glucose levels? So there's so many natural healthcare websites nowadays that people can really just kind of learn what else exists aside from doing this. So
yeah, there's a lot more out there. Basically what we're trying to say is kind of broaden your horizons a little bit and don't be afraid to just explore, at least just for their own good. Just to kind of, it's nice to know like everything that's out there and then come to your own conclusion, basically, right?
Yep. And I know that saying that curiosity killed the cat, but we were taught in freshman year at chiropractic school, be a complete child when you are in healthcare. Just constantly be curious and ask why? Why does it do that? Why doesn't it do that? And I think consumers, patients, who are whatever you want to call yourself, they should do the same thing. Always question, always ask why.
The child's mind and the whole curiosity thing, it fits right in with just the being a little creative with just your life and what you're doing rather than just just going, okay, I have to do this because so-and-so said so, or I have to do this because this is the only way that I know or think that it exists.
Yeah.
And in the world of magic and illusion, the whole point is questioning reality, questioning it, saying, is this really what it's supposed to be? And maybe there's another possibility or workaround that I haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, just because it's not physically there and you can't touch it, see it, smell it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Right?
Just like Wi-Fi. It's always there, but you can't experience Wi-Fi with your five senses.
It's true. That's true.
So this has been an incredibly insightful chat with the one and only Dr. Prakash here at Living Well Balanced in the Raleigh location. He has two locations?
Two
locations, one here in Raleigh and one in the Upper West Side in New York City. And sometimes he travels between the two of them, but you're here most of the time.
Most of the time,
right?
yeah, majority of the time.
So stop by, visit Dr. P and the rest of the staff at Living Well Balanced. And for those of you who want to learn more about who you are, what you do, and what your practice is all about, now's your chance to share links and beautiful things like that.
Yeah, so Raleigh office, livingwellbalancednc.com. New York office is straight up livingwellbalanced.com. We've got tons of social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think we also have a TikTok account in the New York office. So please just find us, follow us on those things, and anything I can do to be of service, to help you, or to guide you in whatever direction you think you need, please don't hesitate to ask. And thank you again for having me on this show. It's awesome. Love it.
Yes, thank you for being a part of this.
You got it.
And you guys have been watching another episode of the Making Magic podcast. Really appreciate you guys watching and listening. For those of you listening, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Feel free to subscribe, share this with everybody that you think can benefit, and we look forward to seeing you real soon. Thanks again, Dr. P.
Cool. You're welcome, man. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.